you for
It's
having me, man. I'm a fan of the podcast, so it's good to be here. Yeah.
yeah, and it's a pretty good time for you, huh?
It's a great time. Yeah, I mean, it would be an especially great time, not considering last night's events.
Yeah.
Because last night was kind of the first game of this series where it felt like we weren't we didn't have the game in our hands the whole time.
Hmm.
I know we lost game one, but we still felt in control of that. But last night felt like maybe something different. So
Yeah.
still kind of pondering what that was all about. But
Right. Well, we will definitely get into that.
yeah,
I want to start talking about music a little first, though. And the tip-off question I do love to ask is, I'd love to know what you're listening to lately.
Hmm. That's tough. We just got off a tour, so
Uh-huh.
been listening to a lot of music.
Yeah.
We were on the road for like a month and a half, and the way we work in the van is just if someone yells something out, we listen to stuff, and if no one yells something out, we just let it go.
Yeah.
Some radio, some artist we like, and we just sort of
Sure.
just vibe to whatever's going on. But hmm, I've been listening to a lot of Rachel Chennariri,
Oh yeah,
um,
yeah.
UK girl who just I'm kind of new to her. I might be late to the Rachel party, but just her songs are so incredible and kind of
Hmm.
meld a lot of influences. Um, ML Buke, I've been listening to a lot of ML Buke,
Okay.
um, which is like this Danish synth pop kind of band that sort of is in the vein of Kate LeBon meets Enya kind of music, which is
Okay.
right. It's
Yeah.
really right. I'm right in the center of that Venn diagram. So, um, yeah, been listening to them. Been listening to a band called World Brain, which is kind of this like Mario sounding music where they
Like,
use Mario textures, but it's ambient soundtracks, but it's kind of active. It's not restful ambience. It's kind of an active ambience kind of thing. So maybe it's not ambience. It's like Windows 2000 kind of
yeah.
music. I think
When you say
yeah.
Mario sounds,
Yeah. Mario 64 specific.
okay,
It's not like
okay.
it's 64,
Uh-huh.
not Super Nintendo or the original. It's kind of like in the vein of,
Are we talking
I
like the penguin music or
well, the penguin that one is like the race where they go down the
yeah.
mountain in the slide. Yeah, I don't know about the penguin one because that's more like the carnival one, but more like when Dire Docks, when you have to swim down
Okay,
in Mario
uh-huh.
64 down into that boat with the treasure chest. That's an incredible song that uses this specific synthesizer that I think is in this world brain music
Ah.
specifically, but
That
more the
is
relaxing kind
selling
of
me on it,
stuff.
to be honest.
Dire Ducks is the name of the
Okay.
song, and if you look it up on Spotify, I don't think it's the official 64 version of it because I don't think that's legal, but people have covered it very
Sure.
perfectly. So yeah, I recommend
Amazing.
that one. That's a good one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I feel like the Super Mario 64 soundtrack gets slept on.
It does. Yeah. I mean, I think it was Koji Kondo. That's the guy who does like the original Super Nintendo and the Ocarina of Time and
Uh-huh.
Star Fox Adventures. I think he did that one too, if I'm not mistaken, which you
Sick.
can't sleep on Koji ever, man. He
Yeah.
did he did everything legendary, There's so many songs of his that are so ingrained in our brains that
Hmm.
don't even realize it's all the same guy, half of those songs.
And
But
who is the actual artist again that we were talking about?
um World Brain, the one
There
that
we
sounds
go.
like Mario.
Yeah,
Yeah.
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 Sorry, a little tangent there, but
No, all
amazing. That sounds awesome. Is
yes.
there I've been kind of trying to gather this playlist. Every guest that comes on, they have them add a song to the playlist. Is there any song that you'd love to add?
Man, I'll keep riding this wave and I'll say the Mario song, honestly. I think
Yeah.
that one would be worth doing. I think regardless of where it comes in the playlist, it's gonna be a vibe shift,
Hmm.
which I think is always welcome. I
Yeah.
kind of like when playlists jerk you around a little bit and take you on an
I
adventure.
like
So I
kind of
don't I
not
don't know the
letting
flow where it's at.
I like not
Yeah.
letting the people know where it's going to be.
Yeah, good. You're gonna put on shuffle anyways, probably, right? So
Right.
I would
Amazing.
say, yeah, Dire Docks, and there's a lot of versions of it, but probably the most popular one's probably the best one. So
Okay.
yeah, that's a good
Sick.
one. Yeah.
Awesome. So you said you just got off tour?
Yeah, we got off tour a week and a half ago. So last Monday we got home and just been kind of chilling and
Mhm.
uh, watching games and
Yeah, good time to be back.
great time to be back, man. It was a good time to be on the road too. I mean,
Yeah,
that's we do a lot of game watching in the green
sure.
rooms and as we're driving, I drive and we put the laptop on a seat and everyone watches the game. So it's
Yeah.
kind of a good way to pass the time on the road.
I feel like as I've talked to a lot of people, like on the road is where a lot of basketball talk ends up happening, where like they'll the band they're touring with ends up they find out that they're into basketball, or whatever, and see watching games after the shows and stuff like that. Have you found that to be true?
Yeah, I mean, this tour, we were on the road with Jaguar Sun, who they're Canadians and they're from Toronto, but they were more interested in the Maple Leafs
Yeah. Also
playoff
a good time
run.
for that. Yeah.
Yes, yeah, and I think they ended up losing while we were on the road with them, so we
Hmm.
kind of commiserated with them. 'Cause I don't know much about hockey, but I do know
Same.
that they were sad, and so we got sad with them. And then this next leg was with J.W. Francis, who is also an Oklahoman guy, but he's kind of new to the Thunder trains. So we sort of spent that time just talking to him
Yeah.
about the joys of being a Thunder fan. And then after that, we were on the road with some Californians who didn't care about Space Face. They didn't care about Thunder quite as much. So
That's
it does
fair.
happen, though. I mean, we are on the road with Knicks fans and
Yeah.
lots of New York bands who love talking Knicks. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's a good time and it's a good common ground just because you don't have to talk about music and talk about
For
something else.
sure.
And yeah,
Definitely. Um, are you working on any new music? Is there anything maybe unannounced, I'm sure, but is there anything we can look forward to?
yeah, that's kind of like the primary focus right now. Is
Yeah.
we've been on the road kind of a lot for the first time ever the last 2 years, maybe
Mhm.
2.5 years. Because before that, we were sort of like an online band and a songwriting project band and didn't do much touring. We both
Okay.
had jobs, me and my songwriting partner, from before. In the last 2.5 years, we've sort of kind of picked up the touring thing and
Hmm.
changed the mode of what the band is and kind of changed our lineup a little bit. And so all that to say, that's been sort of a learning experience because all music was for me was recording and writing.
Yeah, yeah.
And the last 2 years, it's been kind of not doing that. And this tour is the first moment where I've kind of had enough of a rear view mirror to realize I need to sit still and I wish I could be spontaneous and ride on the road and be able to generate creative stuff, but I'm finding I need to kind of sit there and sit with something. So
Hmm.
yeah, we are writing, but I'm feeling a little bit behind. So we're not planning on doing anything in the fall unless
Sure.
some support thing comes up, and all we're going to do is sit and write. So
Yeah. That's awesome.
um, yeah, we do have like a collab. I did a collab. JW Francis came over, who is a buddy of ours who has great
Hmm.
music. And we have an EP coming out, but we're just kind of working on the final touches of that. But besides that, we're just working on record 5, basically.
Cool. Nice.
Yeah.
Have you like, do you feel like you've embraced that kind of change as a band? We're going from like songwriting to the like being more of a live on the road sort of band.
Yeah, man, it's exciting because we were only validated through like modest Spotify numbers or
Yeah.
local radio shows complimenting us or something. And when you go on the road, it's kind of the first time you sort of are confronted with what anything means to anybody. And
Hmm.
through that 2.5 years, we've seen things grow and we've made adjustments, and it's kind of like its own beast. And it's been really rewarding. But I do miss writing right now, and
Of
I'm
course.
so
Yeah.
so yeah. It's kind of just like everything in moderation. Now it's time to get back to writing. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's definitely I do appreciate that side of the road. I didn't even know if I would like being on the road, the
It
way
does seem
it's just
like your live shows, people really do like get into it. It's like it's a fun show.
it's fun. Yeah, we're kind of down to earth vibes, there's not a lot of
Yeah.
mystery or we're not beach house or
Right.
you can see our faces and we smile and we talk
Yeah.
and make bad jokes and haggle and whatever. So it's fun, yeah. Yeah, we
Yeah.
enjoy it.
Sweet. Um, so I'm curious, how I guess how long have you been a Thunder fan?
I've been a Thunder fan since a very specific point in time, which is the 2010 Lakers series with Kobe and Pau Gasol and the tip-in
Hmm.
shot, and basically the first time we went to the playoffs.
Yeah,
I um I wasn't even an NBA fan necessarily before that. I mean, my older brother grew up and I watched Jordan, incidentally as a, you know, 7-year old
hmm,
as he's doing things, but it was just because my brother was watching it in his room.
right.
But when I was in high school and middle school, my mom would force me to go to the No KC Hornets, when they came
Yeah,
to Oklahoma City that year. Um, my friend's grandpa had season tickets, so he would always invite us. And I didn't want to go because I wanted to stay home and just do whatever I was doing. I just
sure.
was not interested at the time. So my mom would force me just to make me a social person. So I spent a lot of time resisting it. But then 2010, man, something just clicked. A lot of things changed that year, and obviously that was an electric team, and there was a lot of
Hmm.
hooks to get you into it. And once I was hooked,
Sure.
I've been a fan ever since. So yeah, so 2010 Lakers series, that was
Yeah.
such a good time, man. And OKC at the time, we don't do this anymore because someone was shot at this event, but they used to
Shit.
screen the games outside of the arena as they were happening, and people would just crowd around, and it was
That's
amazing.
awesome.
But one year, someone shot someone, and we didn't get to do it
Uh,
anymore, so still can't do it. But
yeah.
it was an electric time, man. It was a good time to be a
Do
fan.
you remember what it was like before basketball was in Oklahoma City? Like, was it like was there like a craving for it?
I think there was a craving for some sense of relevancy to anyone outside of ourselves. I think like the only thing we had besides that was OU football, which,
Yeah.
to some people that's still all they care about. But we Oklahoma has always been kind of this little man syndrome thing going on in Oklahoma a little bit.
Hmm.
And I think it didn't have to be basketball specifically, it just incidentally was. But I think we just craved to be taken seriously in some
Sure.
way. And I think just having a fun, good team that everybody loved, that no one had any real issues with. I mean, as they do now, kind of in some ways, Thunder are not loved by everyone now. But that team was beloved by people. I feel like the KD, Harden, Russ,
Yeah, yeah.
it was a charmed kind of time, and we were all, young fans, not young fans of the NBA, but just obviously just a eager kind of crowd, and that
Hmm.
enthusiasm remains to this day, obviously. So, yeah, maybe not a craving for NBA specifically, but a craving for something like that, and it just happened to be an NBA
Sure.
team. So,
Yeah, and I'm trying to even remember how the reception was when the Hornets ended up going there. Like, I can't remember if there was resistance or if it was actually like a rally because they're like it's like it felt like an act of support, but I honestly can't remember.
it was a smashing success, man. And again, I wasn't a part of like
Sure.
the love of that, but yeah, I mean that's probably a major reason why we have the team is that was a
Yeah.
proof of concept for the people who eventually stole from Seattle for David Stern at the time, I guess. He's like, okay, yes, this will work here. This place can support this.
Hmm.
So no, it was a smashing success, and I wish that I cared more at the time, and I, eventually had my chance to love Chris Paul later on, so that's
Yeah.
great. But yeah, no, it was great. It was
It's
people loved him.
yeah, it's really cool to have you on because I haven't had a Thunder, guest yet, and but I have had some folks from Seattle who are like they're still Sonics fans. They can,
Oh yeah.
and they're very. I don't know if you. I follow try and follow every musician I can who's like into basketball, and I saw yesterday Thurston Moore posted about the Pacers, and I think it's strictly from an anti OKC stance.
I lived in Seattle for a year in
Oh, okay.
2019, and I never wore my Thunder stuff
Yeah.
around town. I'm sensitive to that because I've seen Sonic skate, and I know the story, and I know the guys who did it, who sold it, and the guys who bought it. And I'm not
Mhm.
saying the guys who bought it are bad dudes, but they are. I'm not saying they're good dudes either. And it did. We don't come out looking very good as a state, but I'm just a citizen of the state, so I don't
Right.
apologize for. Um, and I say apologize is like I don't make excuses for
Yeah.
if I were from Seattle, I would hate Oklahoma City for the rest of my life, I think.
Right.
The same year that we got that team, we also took an elephant from their zoo or something like that.
What? I did not know
And
that.
yeah, and it died because or maybe we took dolphins. We took one of the animals from their zoo and it died the same year because it wasn't good with our environment because we have a horse track nearby and something about the wind blew from the racetrack into the zoo and some animal died and Seattle knew
Wild.
it. It was something where the city of Seattle was like, they also kill our elephants or maybe it was
Oh
a rhino
man.
or a dolphin. But yeah, so I mean, I don't begrudge them for hating us, and that's why I did not wear my gear around town.
Yeah.
I don't think it was. There are some people who will visit Seattle and wear it antagonistically, like, oh, get over it. But it's like, no, I mean, as much as this means to us, it meant to Seattle and
Yeah.
more because it's a deeper history there. So I just don't like to talk about it, and I hope they get a team as soon as
Right.
possible, just so we can officially give them their history back. Because people the talking heads, always say, yeah, there's a championship from 1979 and this is
Right.
their fourth finals appearance. And no one thinks about that or even knows that. And most of the
Yeah.
people don't know that. So nobody wants to take their history and they want them to have a team. Um, yeah, so I am sensitive to Seattle's plight and we'd have regular restaurants we would go to where they'd always be wearing Seattle gear and it's like I'm never gonna every time I show these people my ID, I know they're just like
uh,
handing it back to me with a yeah, but
but I
no,
mean,
it's
in
it's also my
general,
favorite
like
city in the US. I love Seattle,
it's
so
yeah. In general, though, it's not like you have a team. You should love it. Like, why
right,
not?
yeah. I love it unabashedly, but I also yeah, I do that unabashedly at home and then when we go
Yeah.
to Seattle, I just love it quietly and text my
Sure.
friends. Yeah.
um, and I mean, that's Thunder are the only pro sports team in the city, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
they're the only pro sports team. We have small league baseball and maybe a hockey team, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I think there's a was it the Oklahoma City Lookers or something like that? There's a minor league team.
We just changed our name to the Comets. We were
It
the
was the
89ers
Lookouts.
and then we were the Red Hawks and then we became a farm team for the Dodgers, so we were
Okay.
the Oklahoma City Dodgers, which feels
Oh yeah,
silly
yeah.
and wrong. But it recently went from Oklahoma City Baseball Club to the Comets, and I don't know what Comets means. I don't know why we're the
Yeah.
Comets. It's the worst name I've ever heard. So
Minor league
it's like a
baseball is
little league,
weird. It's just like they trade who the team belongs to and they change their
right?
name like whenever they want and like it's crazy.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to get behind it. When they were the Red Hawks, we named them that, and I had a friend who, when we were like in third grade, there was a contest to name the mascot, and he won, so he got season tickets, and
Oh, sweet.
we sort of own that identity a little more. But
Mhm.
after the Dodgers thing happened, I don't think people are into it quite as much, just because
Sure.
no one cares about the Dodgers here. So yeah.
So when it comes to the Thunder, I guess, who is like your favorite player, like your favorite player growing up, or like the first kind of favorite player you had? I'm assuming it's probably Kevin Durant.
Yeah, so I guess I have to say that's true. I've sort of tried to erase that from my memory because now my very immediate and forever answer to who is my favorite player is Russell Westbrook.
Yeah.
That never changes. Everyone, a proper Thunder fan says it's Russ, and a proper Thunder fan is waiting for the statue to be erected outside of the arena. But yeah, it was KD because I know this because I mean that was the jersey I would
Yeah.
wear because I like to rally around the main dude and he was the main guy. And yeah, I mean it's hard for me to open that wound a little bit, but yeah, it was KD and he was representative of everything that we were about, so we thought. But he did start to show a bit of his Twitter persona like before he left, so it wasn't I mean, it was a total surprise that he went to Golden State of all places, but I think we were kind of preparing our hearts maybe a little bit for that. Just as
Sure.
that summer was a weird summer, up to
Yeah.
July 3rd or what? I think it was July 3rd because it was right, he ruined 4th of July. But yeah, yeah, it was KD, but now it's
Sure.
Russ
Yeah,
forever.
yeah.
It's always
Do you
Russ. Yeah.
do you much like maybe the Seattle grudge, do you hold that towards KD?
I definitely do, and he's made it easy because
Yeah.
Harden doesn't leave, he gets traded, but
Yeah.
other people leave, and I I like to use other people's exits as proof that, we're not just bitter Betties about something. There's a way to do something, and I just don't think that was the right way. And I don't think Katie's
Mhm.
very good at media management or something
Absolutely
superficial, because
not.
he's obviously entitled to whatever he wants to do. And,
Right.
he won. Good for him, with the
Yeah.
73 win
Sure.
Warriors. But you're joining them. But yeah, there's just a way to do things, and we handle people leaving, fine. When Paul George, you know, up and left after
Yeah.
the Trailblazers, put us to bed with the one shot. That was fine because no
It
hard
wasn't very
feelings.
long.
It wasn't very long. And it was kind of, he was always wanting to go back west, it seemed like. So it's not
Yeah.
like that was a surprise, but it did end up in Russ also like leaving as well. So it's kind of like,
Right.
oh shoot, this chain of events. But it's all for the best. Everything is what it
True.
is now because of all this butterfly effect stuff. So
Well,
yeah.
the Thunder, I mean, it didn't feel like you guys had to like quote unquote rebuild that long. Like that Shea trade is incredible.
Right. I get off on reading all the analysts talk about, the heist of Sam Presti and everything he's done, and we've said in Presti we trust. We have shirts that say in Presti we trust since back in the day, and it only has remained true. I know people get stuck on the Harden trade a little bit, but Presti is like, he should also get a statue outside of the arena as
Yeah.
well. And he continues to do it. I mean, even this year with Hardenstein and Caruso, the
Hmm.
two exact kinds of things you need to build from whatever happened last year, whatever holes there are last year.
Sure.
You see it as a perfect sort of filling in the gaps of stuff. He continues to do it all the time, and that's not to say, it's also not to mention everything, when it comes time to have to pay a lot of these people, I think we're ready for that too,
Yeah.
because of what he's done. So
I
yeah.
uh I'm a Bulls fan and I certainly do miss Caruso.
Oh yeah.
Giddy has played well for us, but it's just not as fun to root for Giddy as it is for Caruso.
Oh yeah. Giddy, man. Giddy's cool. Giddy's cool.
Sure.
He's got you could that's a complicated
Yeah, it is.
That's a
It is.
complicated thing, yeah. But
It's like I don't want to
he had the half
like
court shot. He had that half
yeah,
court shot. That
that
was
was a
fun.
cool moment. But like, as a Bulls fan, if we're looking at who we're building a team around, like I could care less if he's there or not. I like the
Yeah,
zealous. That's about it.
yeah. You can't build around Giddy, obviously. But
But
I don't know.
I bring that up because I actually read recently that when the Bulls were interviewing for GMs, it was between Karnisov and Karnisovas and Pressey.
Is this back in
And
the day or
yeah, this was before he took the job with Oklahoma City, and it was between
okay,
them two. And is a tough pill to swallow, knowing what he's done for
dude?
that team.
That's an underrated tough pill to swallow because I've never heard that before. That's
Yeah,
you think of these butterfly effect kind of situations, and that's quite a hypothetical because he does things that I don't he doesn't get laughed at now, but
no,
there were periods of time where, especially Bill Simmons, he gets in my
yeah, but
I love
Bill
Bill
Simmons
Simmons.
irritates a lot of people.
He does, yeah. He doesn't irritate my brothers. My brothers are like, I still like Bill, but
Yeah,
he just drives me nuts. I think he's a big city dude who this
yeah,
is the kind of little man syndrome I have with Oklahoma City. I feel like he
sure,
just does not like the culture of the city itself. So he just
sure.
that colors every narrative that he spins about everything. But I do remember him being critical of Presti a lot whenever he just leaves out all these details. He leaves out
That's just what
critical
Simmons
details all the
does.
time. Yeah.
And I've been seeing a lot of talk lately about how amazing it is that Zach Lowe is back in that organization because he calls Bill Simmons out on his bullshit.
Oh yeah. He does, and even like people who are less qualified, like I just listened to Bill's podcast from yesterday with Chuck Klosterman.
Oh,
Um and even Chuck,
yeah,
who is more like a pop culture
yeah, yeah,
sort of comment. He also calls them out on sports related things. I know Chuck knows about sports, but
sure,
people need to call him out. I mean, and I love
yeah,
Bill. I love the way
yeah,
he's creative, and I love the way he does spin narrative, not spin narratives, but just um frames things.
yeah.
but it's nice whenever it's like based around the truth versus just something good for your
Sure.
imagination kind of thing. So
Yeah,
yeah,
Zach Lowe is a bit of a unicorn when it comes to sports media. I love that guy.
he's so good, man. He's the best.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, him and I don't know if you know Nikias. He's not more of a like I guess like podcast personality. He does join podcasts, but he's just more of a sports writer and kind of like he tweets a lot and like he's just so smart.
Is that Papademos or is that somebody else? Is that are
No,
those different guys?
it's Nikias Duncan.
Nikias Duncan.
Yeah,
I don't know him.
he's really smart. He's just very analytical, but he's just super smart dude when it comes to the game. Um, okay, so we're in the playoffs, and it has been a fun ride. Um, I feel like I'm curious to know what you think of the SGA narrative of uh what the phrase foul line merchant, free throw merchant, is that what it
Free
is?
throw merchant, yeah. I think he's really good at fielding those questions. I relate to it a lot. I think his style is sort of like lead by example. Obviously he talks to his teammates and is a vocal person out there, but he also seems to let his game speak for him, versus I don't know, he's a bit understated. So when he addresses those questions, he's like, "Yeah, I get to the free throw line a lot." He sort of owns these things,
Yeah.
but he explains, he's doing it. He's not doing the rip move. It's not like it's intentional, but it's earned in some way. He does
Hmm.
it a lot in the paint when he's doing smart the
Sure.
right thing, and it just incidentally happens. I know he's got little tricks of arm grabbing and whatnot, but yeah, I don't love the narrative because I mean, obviously, it just it feels like it distracts from the greater good of
Hmm.
who he is. It's a bit distracting where it's like, oh, that's an easy hook to dislike somebody, and it seems like it's just gotten to the point of unreality. No, those numbers don't back up
Right.
anything, and
He's also not the only one who does it. Like Jalen
right.
Brunson very much does the same thing.
Right. And there's those stats of like the last, here's all these guys' MVP seasons, and here's how many free throws they shot in those. And he's way down on the list.
Sure.
He's
Yeah.
he's under Jokic and Russ years and
Yep.
many LeBron years. So it's a narrative that is fine, but
I mean,
but
it's a
it's
narrative that got you to the NBA Finals, and that's totally fine.
right, yeah, and there's no shame in it because it's it's based in reality, but it's
Yeah.
also just that's a fact of life for MVPs. They get to the
Right.
line, and that's part of what makes them good.
I mean, yeah, Giannis has done that his whole career.
Right, and I think Zach Lowe or somebody recently said even if you take away all of his free throws, he still would lead the
Yeah.
league in scoring or something like that. So
That's
it's
like a Barry Bonds type stat.
yeah, it's a good stat. It's like
Yeah.
yeah, well just say that and then it's done. Then we can quit
Right.
talking because it's still and it seems like in some ways I do wonder if Shea, and this is probably not true, but it does seems like sometimes I don't want to say he gets self-conscious of it, but there are games where he
Hmm.
doesn't get to the line a lot, especially like recently, and maybe that has to do with other things. But
Sure.
I sort of I postulate a little too much maybe about it, but I wonder if it affects the way he plays. It probably doesn't, but
I'm sure.
yeah, he does seem sensitive to that in some
Yeah.
respect, just because he takes you know people seriously. Because I think
Yeah.
he's an empathizer. So yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
I think what I'm
So
trying to figure out is like if you look back at like last season and like even beginning of this season, the Thunder had such like a fan favorite like team. Everyone loved that they all did the post game press conferences and like were just having fun. And then what something happened that when it came to playoff time where they became the villains a little bit. And I don't know when that happened.
we're very boring villains as well. I mean, there are so many easier villains that have existed, and uh, I was taking me by surprise because yeah, you do feel all that love and you feel
Hmm.
all that stuff, and then you see when did everything turn? And what's weird is I think in some ways, and I might be projecting. A lot of times I feel like my opinion on this is a projection of my feelings about other stuff, but it seems like the youth sort of fell off. Like there was something about who Anthony Edwards is, the whole face of the league conversation kind of
Sure.
thing. And people called that series the Aura Bowl. You'd get online and be like, "Oh, this is the Aura Bowl, and we're gonna see like what wins out. Is it the quiet, silent killer who leads by example, or is it the confident, outwardly, swag?" And I hated all that because
Yeah.
I don't know. I hated it for a lot of reasons that I won't go into because I think I am projecting a bit, but I think it got out of hand in a way that had no basis in reality. I think it was just one of those talking points that kind of goes too far, and it's just there's
Sure.
nothing else to talk about, as it relates to our team. We don't really have a lot of storylines. That's something Bill said yesterday, is people have a problem with the team a little bit because there's just not a lot of stories. I
Sure.
don't know, like what we're just kind of boring like the Spurs in some way as it relates to um sensational personalities.
But
There's
maybe
not a
that's
lot of.
good because,
Oh, it's great.
people look back at the Spurs now and they're like, oh my God, what an incredible team.
Exactly. And something they said on that exact podcast was, Tim Duncan at the time, earlier in his career, they thought of him as, does he care enough about all of this? Is he too lackadaisical? Is his passion or whatever? And then in retrospect, it's like, oh yeah, well, he's won 4 championships, I think. Obviously no one disputes who Tim Duncan is now, but it is comforting to know that um, if you are going to not just sort of command the respect, that it will
Mhm.
eventually come to you if you just keep doing your thing. And
Yeah.
I think Shea knows that. And he's got his quote, his whole life is consistent kind of thing. So I love the style of Shea and I love everything about him. I think
Yeah.
he's perfect, man.
I think this playoffs in general is really interesting because we're getting that glimpse of like what is the future of the NBA going to be after Bron's gone, after Curry's gone, and these are all this everyone in this playoffs. So like this, you got Brunson, Edwards, Shea, like
Halliburton,
Giannis was in the
yeah.
first round. Like this is what the NBA is going to look like after they retire.
And that's okay. I think
Yeah,
like that. I think that's an encouraging thing. I know the ratings are lower than they've ever been or something, which probably has to do with a lot of things. But I think it's the same way that organizations tank and then become amazing. It's not
hmm
like the NBA is tanking, but I think there is an investment now, or should be an investment in all of these young people because they are all very good and they're
yeah.
their own unique things. And I think it's kind of promising that there are so many great players and personalities and styles of play right now that
But I think fans don't know who to pick. They don't know like who's my guy that's not on my team. Like
right.
they don't know who to pick, and I don't think you need to pick someone. Like that's why I think the NBA is actually amazing right now. Is there's so many people you could just casually root for.
Right, it's open season, and as far as my biased opinion goes, odds are good that Shea will be appreciated sooner rather than later
I think
if
so.
the Thunder do what they're supposed to do. And I'm not even saying this year, I'm just saying like in the next 5 years.
Yeah.
It's hard to hate like deserve success. So I'm
Yeah.
hoping that's what comes to him. I hope he gets that reward, and I hopefully it's not like, the last iteration of the Thunder that didn't pan out.
Sure.
Because we do have an awareness of what has happened before and how we felt in 2012.
hmm
There's definitely like a appreciate what's happened this year and don't take it for granted kind of thing as a fan base. So I'm
Yeah.
assuming the players have some sense of perspective on that too. So
Sure. But talking too about the shifting perceptions, I feel like take a look at like Halliburton. That was in like a month. People are
yeah,
like he's a dork. He is like not very good, and then he has 3 series in a row where he's clutch, and all of a sudden people are like all on board.
yeah, man, it is terrifying, and I don't hate the Pacers. I think they're a super likable,
Yeah,
fun team.
I agree.
I think Halliburton is a likable star. I think it's wild how game one, game two, even game two, where we kind of won that more handily.
hmm
He did sort of kind of in the last 4 minutes kind of come alive a little bit.
Yeah.
And that team, we can be up by 20 points and you don't get comfortable with that stuff.
Hmm.
Whereas the Nuggets, who, zooming out, I was more afraid of the Nuggets as an opponent just because of Jokic and whatnot. But
Yeah.
if you were ahead by 20, you don't really worry about it.
True.
But with this Pacers team, it's like no lead is comfortable, even with 3 minutes left. You could be up by 15 points, and they've done it to us, and obviously
Yeah.
they've done it to the Knicks and other teams. So yeah, I kind of hate. I feel really uneasy right now, and I also hate that I listen to all these podcasts that build us up, like, oh yeah, this is the Thunder, and this is an easy one, an easy bet, Thunder in five, whatever. It just always feels like that's a precursor to upsets, especially as it relates to people who are fueled by that kind of stuff. So
Sure.
I don't know. I fear and respect the Pacers, and I hope that they chill out a little bit.
Yeah. So,
'Cause
okay, as you guys are down 2-1, and I think by the time this episode gets out, we'll have game 4 under wraps. How are you feeling? What are you feeling for the rest of the series? Like, what's your prediction, I guess?
Mine, since the start, has been Thunder in six,
Yeah.
and my heart told me five, but I just gave one as a buffer, and thankfully I did
Wise
that now
decision.
because, yeah, because now I can be like, okay, well, we'll just win the next three, and I do think, um, just historically, the way we've responded after losses in these big games,
Mhm.
we've come back and game planned and just played way better in the games after the losses in the season, but also in the playoffs. So I think we will win the next one, and I think home court will help us win game five.
Sure.
And then maybe if you're up, and I'm kind of going too far. I'm knocking on wood over here, but I stick with Thunder in six because if you're up 3-2, even if it's away, you might smell some blood in the water at that point, and it's like
Sure.
one game. So I still say Thunder in six. But I also would not be surprised if it's, even Pacers in six. If
Fair.
J-Dub, J-Dub, I get worried about J-Dub sometimes. Just he's shown that he can get up for big games. He had a huge game seven against
Hmm.
the Nuggets, but then he's kind of regressed back into the J-Dub that causes, some trepidation and giving full confidence. Like, even though, I mean, he does well. You look at his stat line afterwards, but last night I felt much more negative about him than his stat line looked like at the end of the game. So
Sure.
maybe I'm just being overcritical because some of his turnovers involve just wild handles with him dribbling the ball too
Yeah.
high, and it just looks like obviously don't do it like that. But
Yeah.
I think we will win in six. I guess that's a
Yeah. All
long
right.
way
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
saying I hope.
I think
But
also uh, Chet too is someone who needs to be on because in game 2 he was hitting some shots and
and last game three he
yeah.
murdered. He murdered the last game, and that's what's so. Also, our minutes with Chet in this series have been a little weird. We've kind of like gone away from the too big thing that
Hmm.
um I know there's reasons for that, and a lot of, X's and O's people say, well, that's smart given this matchup. But when they're both in there, it just seems like, well, these are our five best players. So
Sure.
despite the matchup, that's kind of our identity. And it's actualized, and it seems like we do well when the two bigs are in it. And I'm not saying you
Hmm.
do it all the time, but just do it a little more than it's happened,
That's
because
fair.
when
Yeah.
they are both out there, it seems like it's good. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, Chet's been stepping up too. So,
For sure.
yeah.
All right. So I want to do a little. I've only done this once, and it was actually with the band Toledo.
Oh yeah, we played a show with Toledo recently.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's a Knicks fan, so I did it for him. But I want to pull an NBA tarot card. Is what we're gonna do. Well, I have a bunch of trading cards and it's just a bunch of random of different eras. And what we'll do is I'll have you pick one, and we can decide what that means for the rest of the series.
As it relates to the Thunder.
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know if it was about my life or the Thunder. So, all
No,
right,
I'm not going to
all
interpret
right,
you that deeply, but let's keep it basketball.
okay,
So go ahead and pick one stack.
okay. I'll do your right hand.
My right hand.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'll just do a quick shuffle, and then I'll run my finger down, and you tell me where to stop, and we'll see what it means.
All right.
Honestly, I don't. Some of these players I might not even know. Some of these I have. There's either a current year deck or there's a 1990 Skyhoops deck.
Okay. Yeah, there's a good chance this will be a hole in my knowledge as well. But how about now?
Wait, hold on. I haven't done that yet.
Oh, you haven't done it yet. Okay, I thought you were
I'm
doing
gonna
it.
I'm gonna try and just tell me where to stop and I'll
Okay, so I'll just say now as you, all right, maybe you go back. Maybe it's like you do a lap back. Now.
okay.
Yeah.
See who we got. Oh boy. Paul George.
Hey, there we go. All right, I'm cool with that.
How do we yeah, what does this mean for the Thunder?
I think it means good. This is your job, right? This is
I
your
know,
job.
I know. I'm still figuring out what the meaning of the cards. But I guess in relation, this is the Clippers version, so this is looking back, he might have some regrets because it's looking good for the Thunder, maybe.
Yeah, we certainly don't have regrets about him being on the Clippers, that's for sure. So
I
that's
would
the
say
beginning
so.
of
That's
everything
actually
beautiful.
very interesting that he was traded for Shea. I love
Yeah,
that.
that's like the best card you could have drawn, I think.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's
That's a good
beautiful,
sign,
man.
man.
I feel good,
That's
dude.
yeah, that couldn't have worked out better. Amazing. All right. Well, the last thing I love to do is it's another game, but I messaged you about this, and it's called Musician Matchups. And I would love to we have some players, and what's the musical comp for these players? What's the whether it's their career arc or play style or even just a name, pun, whatever it is. Let's compare our answers.
Let's do it.
So the first one on the list is the man we've been talking so much about is SGA.
SGA. All right. SGA, I sort of liken to Prince, I think.
Ooh,
I
yeah.
think I think Prince is smooth. I think he's sometimes understated. He's obviously a legend, but also underrated somehow, you know?
Effortlessly cool too.
Effortless, yes, and principled, he's principled
Yeah.
to the point of like problematic at times,
Yeah.
which
Sure.
you know, but I think there's a suaveness and also there's like an androgynousness to Prince that I think SGA in some ways shares in a low key way, but he posts
Hmm.
pictures of him in the locker room
Yeah.
just laying just there is nothing toxic about Shay's masculinity, you
Yeah.
know? And I think he shares that with well, I don't know if they're Prince may have toxic masculinity actually, but in a lot of ways he doesn't.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
in the so yeah, I think Prince. That's who I'm
Cool,
gonna go
really
with.
cool style. Like
Yes.
Shay's wearing those like fur coats and like, just he's just like cool dude.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh
No.
that's good. That's really good. That's actually better than mine because mine's I was grasping at straws a little bit and I went with a fellow Canadian artist. And I feel like this is
Ah.
actually a little disrespectful to SGA because I felt like he's better than this, but I went with Carly Rae Jepsen.
Oh, dude, that's no disrespect at all.
Okay,
That
good.
is no
I
disrespect at all.
because
The
the reason I went with this is I feel like early in his career, people may have not given him the full credit that of what he would become. And that's
hmm
the Call Me Maybe. And they thought, maybe it's just like a one hit wonder sort of scenario, but banger after banger, like
banger after banger, man.
proving people wrong.
Really, really like you, that song.
Yeah.
We saw her at a festival once, and that was like one of our favorite
Yeah.
performances. She's principled too. I mean, she
Hmm.
never strayed the course. She always did what she set out to do, and
Sure.
she's older too. I mean, she's like
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
40-year-old pop star who
Yeah.
looks, that's a great one, man. I love that one.
Yeah.
I
Great.
love
Love to
Carly
hear
Rae.
it.
Yeah.
All right, next on the list is Russell Westbrook, and I struggled with this actually a lot because how do you? I mean, you'll have a different perspective on it because of how much he means to you. So I'm curious to know
Yeah.
what you have.
Well, that's kind of where I went with it is because he is kind of singular in some ways. Personality wise, but how much he means to me. He is my favorite player of all time. So I just thought, who is my favorite artist of all time right now? It's not of all time, I guess, but my
Yeah.
favorite artist right now, and that is SZA. I think I think SZA, and so I started thinking about what does SZA share with Russ? They're both spicy. They both, when they hit, they are just hitting the most perfect way you can, in the most
Hmm.
visceral way, you know. I also love who they are, but cannot relate to anything that they're about. Like Russ's disposition is not my disposition. SZA's whatever she's talking about, I can't relate
Sure.
to. Her lyrics are not for me, I don't think.
Yeah.
But I love it though, and I
Right.
feel the truth in what she is saying, and Russ is nothing but true to himself.
Hmm.
So maybe the way that they exude truth and the way that I vibe with their truths, even though they're not like me,
Yeah.
they are my favorites, and I just like appreciating something that I know I could never be or fully understand. It's just so that's kind of why I just stuck with SZA. Just that's where I go.
That's a beautiful approach.
Thank you, thank you. What'd you say?
Uh, I I focused on, the triple double season thing.
Mm.
He was the first person in a very, very long time to do that. Um, so I went with Fiona Apple, uh,
Oh,
because obviously great career, and
mm-hmm.
then along came Fetch the Bolt Cutters, and she
Yeah,
was
it's
the
a
first
10.0.
person to get a 10 on Pitchfork in a long time.
Yeah, they broke.
That wasn't a reissue.
Right. That wasn't like it was since Dark Twisted Fantasy or
I
something, like
think
since
so.
2010. So a
Yeah.
full decade of no tens. It was poetic.
Yeah.
That's good. And she's
Yeah.
also not prickly, but she's not afraid to tell the truth. You know, she's
Totally.
trash talked Paul Thomas Anderson and Quentin Tarantino after they invite her over
Yeah.
to their houses to watch movies. And she said those guys were really annoying and just talked about
Yeah.
minutia. And I've heard them talk since, and I love those guys, but I feel like she's being totally correct. It probably would
Yeah.
be
Oh
annoying.
yeah.
Yeah, I read Tarantino's book. I was like, man, I love this guy, but he's too you know, smarmy or
I
something, you
didn't
know.
doubt that. I don't doubt that for a second. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I think
I,
that's a good one.
I feel like they both kind of have this subtle, like, I don't give a shit, anarcho sort of vibe.
Yeah, man,
uh,
it's hard not to just respect that. It's
yeah,
beautiful. Yeah.
absolutely. All right. So next up is Chet.
Chet. Okay, yeah, Chet. This one for me, you know, the last one was a spiritual comparison. The first one was kind of like a personality comparison. Chet for me, this is just a physical comparison, which may be, you know, shallow or something, but I am thinking Bradford Cox from Deer Hunter.
Oh,
Um,
sick.
just because he's their frames are very similar, and I see them
Sure.
stand, you know, he stands out there and looks like Bones, you know, and
Yeah.
Bradford Cox looks like Bones as well, and they both have very long bones.
Yeah.
So physically, those guys just remind me of one another. And I love Bradford Cox and I love Chet, and they are both, you know, I don't know if Chet's a blue collar player because he's pretty, you know, he's a smart dude, but Bradford's certainly a blue collar guy, and Chet, you know, puts in the work. So I'm not going to call him blue collar, but they do have this workmanlike spirit about them. So I'm going
Yeah.
to say the long
I
bones and the workmanlike spirit.
I I actually do think Chet's a little blue collar. I don't know if you saw recently the interview where he's like they wanted him to share his favorite books, and they
And
were
it was
all
coffee
coffee
table,
table books.
which man, it made me want to that I did see that, and it made me want to get coffee table books
Yeah,
because I
that's
was like,
true.
that's genius, man.
That's
That's like
true.
the most entertaining kind of book to read. He just knows what's good.
Yeah.
I think it's like, oh yeah, you're just getting to the heart of
Yeah,
what's good about
like
it.
a Gucci like book, and like yeah.
And he was like, yeah, I haven't read it. I just like these
Yeah.
pictures and yeah.
Probably looking at it for the first time.
Yeah,
Yeah,
man, Chet's
amazing.
great.
I do love Chet though. Like, and so the my pick is I'm going honestly for mostly pun alone, but there is a connection because I went with a Oklahoma City band, and it's Chet Pile.
Oh, Pile, dude. Those guys are amazing, man.
They're crazy.
Musically, I'm trying to relate their music to Chet.
I don't think they could be
Powerful.
further from apart from each other.
Right. Chet is like getting bullied all the time, and those guys don't I don't feel like those guys,
No.
you know, mince words or get below.
I
Those
don't think
guys are.
so.
I think they are sweethearts, though.
Yeah.
I don't know them personally, but I know that they are considered sweethearts around town. I think they're sweet, very caring kind of guys. So that's a good one. Yeah,
But
shout
they
out to
both
Chap
kick
Power
ass,
Bacon.
so
Ass kickers extraordinaires. Yes, of
um
course.
all right, last on the list, and I threw that curveball with Oklahoma City Hornet Chris Paul.
All right. So Chris Paul, like I said, I was not a fan of the Hornets when they were here and I was forced to go to games, but he was beloved here
Mhm.
and so I kind of tried to go with the arc for this one.
Yeah, I did the
And
same.
so I chose, yeah, because Chris Paul's arc, I mean, who doesn't love his
Right.
arc? Especially as it relates to as an Oklahoman, it's very kind of oddly Oklahoma centric, his career
Hmm.
arc. So I chose Animal Collective because they,
Sweet.
or not Animal Collective, Panda Bear specifically,
Oh,
Noah
okay, yeah.
Lennox.
Who is a big hooper?
Is he?
Yeah,
You should have him on, man. Who
I've
who is his
tried.
team? Who is his team? I don't know
I'm
who
not
he
sure actually.
like a Baltimore area.
Wizards? I don't know.
Yeah, that'd be sad. It'd be sad to
Yeah,
be a Wizards fan. So okay, so I've chosen that's cool. That's cool.
yeah.
And of course cuz he's so cool. But I chose Panda Bear because, Animal Collective had their early fruitful period of just
Hmm.
wowing. They're the darlings. They have their run. And I guess, Chris Paul was rookie of the year when he
Hmm.
played with us or I guess for the Hornets when they were here. And continued to be great for them in his early career. And then I'm not saying Panda Bear and Animal Collective became villains to me, but they sort of I lost interest in who they were. And when Chris Paul was a Clipper, I did not like Chris Paul, and I took delight in the Thunder series where we beat them after they were ahead and Chris Paul like single-handedly lost this game and after the game he's like, "Yeah, that was all me. I single-handedly lost
Hmm.
this and I missed two free throws." And he's just like talking to himself almost. I took so much joy in like Schadenfreude or whatever in his demise that game in series. And I'm not saying I did that with Animal Collective, but I do think they might have lost their way or they didn't lose their way. They just weren't they lacked hooks more
Yeah,
so than before. I think
sure.
they kind of went a little too niche for themselves. But Panda Bear, I guess I'm relating Chris Paul's entire arc that I didn't appreciate him with just one record I didn't like, which a lot of people
Right.
like. But Buoys, I didn't like Buoys. I think he did weird things with his vocal on there. I think if he didn't do that weird, like half turned on auto tune thing in that record, I would love it 10 times more than I did. And I have a theory that his children were young at that time, that he was trying to make a kids record for them, and that's
Ah.
that's that's a conspiracy theory. But all this to say, I did not like mid-era Panda Bear, and it's just one record. But then, his latest two have been
But
awesome.
people treat like they would do that with Chris Paul. It's like they'll pick one team that he was on, and that's a reason not to like him.
Right, and that's me and the Clippers.
Yeah,
Because any other time, I love Chris Paul, and then he comes back to OKC, and Panda Bear comes back into my life with the Reset record, and then his newest one.
his
They're
newest one's
just
really
so
good.
great. It's a return to form, and
Yeah,
so I that's a long-winded way of trying to relate Chris Paul to Panda Bear and
yeah.
Animal Collective tangentially, but that's what I chose for Chris Paul.
No, that's a fair assessment. I went with a career arc too, but more in the sense that not that like in the villainry aspect. It's that so I went with Spoon because I
Oh,
feel like a long career, and maybe in the past, 6, 7 years, they have kind of dipped, and people start to forget. And then you got to let's take a step back and look at their career.
yeah,
Like, man, they really were like good. Like,
right.
don't just judge them on like an album or two here or there. Like that's a great career, and Chris Paul is a guaranteed Hall of Famer. I don't care if he hasn't won. Like, he's a guaranteed Hall of Famer.
For sure. And he's a teammate elevator as well. Like
Yeah.
he's a guy who makes his teammates better, whether that's, through mentoring or just like his play. I,
That's why him
I'm
on
I'm
the Spurs right now is such a nice spot.
yeah, dude. I hope I love the Spurs, as an organization and I'm stoked for, I hope that they
Yeah.
turn it around soon because it's fun when they're relevant because they're just right down the road and it's
Hmm.
fun to for them to be good. And I love series from the past with the Spurs, and it would be great if Chris Paul were, a part of some sort of
Yeah.
series or something. But
I hope he joins like a front office or something and gets in part of some organization.
yeah, he's got like coach written all over him. It feels like
Absolutely.
something like that.
All right. Well, those are some great matchups there. I think we both did a pretty solid job there.
Nice, man. Yeah, I love that. I really, to go back to Carly Rae, I think she is misunderstood sometimes
Yeah.
too, and I think you just gotta acknowledge her body of work
Yeah.
and just let it speak for itself,
I
same as
think
Shay.
I'm hoping SGA the rest of the series is saying run away with me.
It's beautiful, man.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, man. Well, this has been a great time talking and especially having a Thunder fan on and it's a great time and I hope for the best the rest of the series.
Yeah, thank you, man. I appreciate your well wishes. I hope we run away with it and you know, it's been good. Been
Yeah,
good talking to you.
absolutely, man. I'll catch you later.